evening. Welcome to the March 11th, 2025 work and special sessions of the Board of Education. This is Joe Cilio, President of the Board of Education speaking. Thank you for attending in person or through Zoom. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Due notice of today's meeting has been provided to the public and each member of the Board of Education as required by law. Tina, will you please take attendance? Present. Present.
Present. Present.
Present. Diane Fabio, Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance, District Clerk. Present. Amy McLaughlin, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources and Leadership Development.
Present.
Present.
Just before we start, I just wanted to alert the public. We have a new member on the legal staff with us, Mrs. Christy Jacobson, who's joining us as our counsel, part of the Gercio team, and we wish her the best of luck helping us. And we thank Doug Spencer, who is no longer with us, and wish him the best in his future endeavors. Thank you. Yeah. We're going to be going through the non-instructional, administrative, and capital components of the budgets. I'll hand the mic over to Dr. Sinha.
Whoops. Thank you, Mr. Cilio. If I can get this thing here. There we go. There we go. All right, great. So this is our second budget workshop. And as you recall, the first one, we gave you an overview of our proposed budget or how we calculated the tax cap levy. And we really discussed the revenues, which was state aid was part of that, and also the reserves. So the next three meetings will be on the expense side. So we discussed the revenues with the first meeting, the next three expense, and we start off with the talking about the administrative and capital portion of the budget. So again, we always start with our mission and vision. You've seen this plenty of times. And again, even with throughout the budget process, we keep this at the forefront. So this evening, we'll again give you an overview of the budget. We'll discuss the expense summary, especially the administrative and capital components, transportation, our projects, capital projects that we're recommending. And Mr. Capio is going to go through the budget in terms of with numbers, the entire the administrative and capital budget codes. You've seen this before at the last meeting, our proposed budget, which is $137,410,845. That's a budget to budget increase of 2.56%. And it's within our maximum allowable tax levy, which is at 2.42%. So this here is again, this is just our major budget. This is major components of the budget. So you'll see, again, this is what we're proposing in terms of expenditure, which matches our revenue that we reviewed at the last budget meeting. So we're required to present the budget in this three-part series. So this evening, we'll be discussing the capital, which is 13% of our budget, administrative, which is 11.4% of our budget, the program, which we'll discuss in the next two meetings, which is a little over 75%, and that's where you want it to be. Program side is what touches students. So those numbers are where they ought to be. And they're pretty consistent for the last, I would say, 5-6 years. They're very consistent, those numbers. And this is the pie chart in numbers. Okay. So here are the various codes under the administrative side of the budget. So you have the Board of Education, my office, the business office, the personnel, legal services, you have the curriculum, and you have all the supervision. So one thing I did want to point out here, the curriculum and instruction, we discussed the administrative portion of it, but the program portion of it, we'll discuss it in the next two meetings. And the 1680 code, which is the central data processing, the IT administrative costs are under that budget code. The building supervision, that's all of our principals, assistant principals are in that code. The academic program, all of our coordinators and directors are in that code. And the other program admin, those are all folks that support the, the other programs that I just spoke of, the curriculum, the building, and the academic programs. And then we have the employee benefit in there as well. So here is our, the capital budget. And this is, these are all the different codes that fall under the facilities, maintenance, and again, the employees. And we do discuss the benefits, rather. We do discuss the student transportation. It's covered here in this presentation, although it's part of the program. We discuss it now because these are, it's a non-instructional codes. So with the central office or the central administration, you can see it's my office, my colleagues that are here, their offices. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an overview, the Ms. DiCapio's office, the business and finance, they oversee the, they administer obviously the budget. It also includes, her office also oversees transportation, food services, facilities, benefits, and all civil service employees. Ms. McLaughlin's office, the HR office, that office oversees all certified employees, hiring, evaluations, staffing, scheduling, continuing ed. Those aspects are under Ms. McLaughlin. And then Dr. Bowman's office, the curriculum, she works with the coordinators, directors, all of our student programs, professional development, special projects, such as the Parent University, and then also the Universal Pre-K program falls under her as well. Okay. Here's transportation. So we have almost 3,000 students that we transport within our district and about 300 outside of the district. So the personnel that make up our transportation department, you can see that's there. Our bus drivers and bus attendants, they also serve as lunch monitors in our program. And with plant and operations, that is under Mr. Foley's department. And those are the personnel that are within his department. And, one thing I wanted to make a note of is you see the supervisory aides and the weekend and evening security that also falls under these codes. And just to, they're responsible for all aspects of maintaining and upkeeping all of our facilities, our campuses. We, especially with our athletic games that are held on our campuses, we have about 470 home games, if not more. And they also complete many of the projects in-house as well. Capital projects. So this is kind of, it's kind of nice to show some of the work that has been done. So with our capital projects, if you see, just some of the pictures here, you have what some of the things we've done. But the first picture is in the middle school. We have really, this is our second hallway that's been completed, painted. We've taken a lot of the things off of the walls, so it's nice and clean. There's less visual stimuli, so it's just much more pleasing to the eye. We actually hear from our, our faculty and staff and even our students. It's just, it's just it looks clean. And if you notice the fencing, that second picture, that is something that we put in this year. That's on the east side of the field and with the gates. What this allows us is that kids can go outside for recess. We didn't have this opportunity, but this is a safe, safer area for our kids now. And if you look at the bottom picture with the cars there in the parking lot, that's the fuel tank cover replacement. That may seem simple, but it was a very big project that was completed this year. And the PA system at the high school, we also did the same thing for Stewart School. That was completed this year, and this is something that, you know, we look at every year, and this was, the PA system is extremely important because it's for communication, but it's also for safety, operations of the building. So this, we were glad we were able to complete these projects, and you see more that are listed. And then for our elementary and primary schools, you know, remember 2 years ago when we had, the board had approved to, with the multipurpose room at the primary schools to have that air conditioned? Well, that project is almost completed. And you see the pictures of the first 2 pictures that are there in the first row. That's from our primary schools. The gymnasium, that's another big project that we completed. That's for Stewart School that we really refinished the gym floors, and at Stratford, we did even more than that at Stratford with just a real refresh of the gym with the paint, the wall pads and the doors. So that was very nice. Our gymnasium looks very nice in both the buildings, and the PA system at Stewart for similar reasons. One thing that I wanted you to see, the before and the after picture. So if you look at the paint, I don't know if you could see it as well, but the paint that was done, and we do the ceiling tiles rather, and the lighting, big difference. And you see it in every year, but this is not a project that's one and done. It happens every year. We do about 5 of the 5 classrooms. So it's nice. It looks a little dingy, and then when you spruce it up, it looks nice, the lighting. And then these are some of the projects that are in progress. So at the high school, we have, of course, the boiler replacement. We had discussed that a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so ago. So that's here, that's up at the state. We hope that it gets approved and we have that boiler is replaced before this next winter. The gym bleacher replacement, remember that was approved. I think that was last year, the year before we had approved the bleacher project. And that project is, the demolition will start in April, and it'll be done over the summer. And then the other ones, which are projects that some of it has been approved, but again, these are longer term projects that they're part of the bond project that'll get done. You know, they'll start this year, but it'll take some time before that gets done. Remember, with any of our projects that we do have, the interior projects just take longer time to get done, and we have a very short window of time because you can't do those projects when the kids are in school. And the middle school, we have the air conditioning, the cafeteria, and again, painting in, you know, our hallways and classroom. That work will continue. And at Stewart, Stratford, and the primary schools, the air conditioning, you know, that's a big one. The 2 elementary school and the cafeteria, and at the primary, all of the classrooms. So those projects, I think those have been approved, or they're on the agenda tonight. So, but again, these projects will take some time, but we'll get them, you know, taken care of. And then at at Stewart School, the parking lot, that picture that you see up there, that's the parking lot, Stewart School. We've always had an issue with not enough space for our staff or parents. So these extra 28 spaces will be nice for Stewart Avenue. And then at Bus Garage, if you see that last picture, that cement repair, you know, our bus garage is on top of a landfill. So you see the ground, you know, the sinking that happens. So that needs to be repaired. That's a safety issue. And then, of course, the HVAC and electrical upgrades. Robert, did you want to add any more to our project list before we move on?
Sure, I can talk to certain things. So for the capital projects, as Dr. Kasum had said, you know, those are the big ticket items. What we have is under the operational budget and the facilities department. You know, traditionally the facilities department is a reactive group. You know, things are broken, we fix it. Things are dirty, we clean it. We're trying to instill in our group of staff to be proactive rather than reactive. And with the talent pool that we have, we've been able to take on projects with the district save the district money so we don't have to hire outside contractors. Not all projects, but quite a few of them. And we do have a decent talented group that I can challenge them and they'll do things. You know, one of the things that I try to do for the facilities department, and the mantra is really, I want to be proactive, but I also want to do quality of life for the students. Lighting upgrades we're trying to do on a case-by-case basis throughout all the classrooms. We are replacing floor tiles that are broken, damaged, chipped. Things to make things look better, that have the students feel more comfortable in their classrooms. Some of the items that we've picked up were classroom floors, excuse me, in the middle school in Stratford. We completely replaced floors that were chipped and peeled. We, I don't know if everybody's seen the parking lot here at the high school. We resurfaced it and restriped it. It hadn't been done in many years. A couple other things we did were in the parking lot, the lighting, we're changing to all LED lighting in the parking lots to enhance security and visibility at night. That goes along with some of the outside of the buildings. Talking to the LED lights, we are also putting LED lights in the classrooms, many classrooms. And part of that project is we now taking advantage of rebates that are available so the district can actually make some rebate money on the LEDs. Currently, we're about $6,500 in rebates on the positive side for lighting upgrades. One of the other things we're doing internally is working with National Grid. We took advantage of National Grid. They have a program called Demand Response that since we have oil capability and on times of need, we will shut down the gas and go to oil for the 1 or 2 days required. And part of that, we will get a rebate for that participation in that group. Currently, we're on a positive of over $18,000 to the district. Couple other things we want, minor items in middle school. We replaced a bunch of the doors to ensure lockdown capability. One of the other things that I've taken on is I'm trying to now put branding in each of the schools. I don't know if anybody noticed, but we bought some mats for each of the schools. Instead of having the district, I'm trying to put in Stratford School, Stewart School, give some identity to the kids and to the school. And even in the when we do renovation of the gym floors now, I want to put the name of the school on the gym floors. Give the kids some chance to, you know, have some pride in their school. So that's one of the things, you know, that was a personal project I wanted to take on for branding the schools for the children.
Thanks, Robert. And then just moving on for our capital transfer proposed projects, you know, at the high school, you know, if you look at, we only have one turf field that gets used excessively. So we want to replace that turf field. You could see even in that picture, the repairs that have been done with the patches. We also want to, as we're doing that, the netting, there's a picture of the netting there as well. We want to replace the netting. And then this library we're in at the high school, the air conditioning at this library, because we've had some issues with the air conditioning here. And then district-wide boiler control upgrades. This is something that Robert and his team, we had started that this past school year. That needs to continue. Painting and beautification, you know, what we talked about earlier we did some painting at the high school also this year. Yeah, right? We did some,
Vestibule.
or was it, right? We did
Yeah.
do some painting
And
here also. That needs to continue, that we have to continue to keep
and the
painting and
door
making
jambs.
sure our facilities, they're, you know, they look nice, our classrooms.
The molding.
And the
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 door
mold,
molding, right?
Did
That's
you
what you
do-
started at the high school.
High school, we painted the door.
the door frames. Mm-hmm.
Refreshing classrooms every so many years. I think it's fallen to the wayside a little bit, so we want to revamp that and get that back to where it needs to be.
Yeah, that's something that we do here, like the more we do the classroom spaces, the more we paint and make our you know, that they look fresh. It's a nice welcoming atmosphere. And then the concrete and the masonry, the pointing, that work I think every year we allot money for that. That needs to happen. And then for technology infrastructure, that's really for the servers and the wiring. And that is something we want to continue to have strong infrastructure for technology. And, one thing before I hand it over to Dana, the transfer to capital, those funds are part of the local budget that we vote on. That's why we share that with our community. It's a separate line item.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha, and thank you, Rob. That was great. I will say that a lot of the transfer to capital, it really comes in from the principals, from the buildings, and from Robert and his staff, just to prioritize what we need. And obviously, the mechanics and all of that have to take precedence, but we also need to update and, keep the facilities going. So we're always very proud of that list, and then we work on it over the next 2 to 3 years. And, it's fun when those things finish up and get on, out to the public to use. So that's good. So this slide is the total 25-26 proposed budget. It totals at the end $137,410,845. This is it broken down into its major expense areas. We do go through each of them. This includes all the budget. I know we're only talking about capital and administrative today, but this includes all of it, including the full program budget. You could see on here just generally that most of the increases come in the areas of salary, contractual expenses, and BOCES, and we'll be reviewing that over the next 3 presentations. So starting on the administrative side with the 1099, which are our first codes, these are the Board of Education expenses. And here you might see things like workshops, membership dues, budget vote expenses, election workers, supplies, materials. And these are flat to the current school year. 1299 are the superintendent's codes. Here you have salary for the superintendent and the secretary, the superintendent's secretary, supplies, materials, travel, workshop. Increases here are in salaries and some in dues. Moving on to the 1300 codes, and these are the business office codes. So this is my office, the full business office across the hall, treasurer, benefits, attendance, all of the expenses related to purchasing, financial software, auditing, supplies, materials, travel, many more come into here. Increases are due to salary and some contractual expenses, mostly due to auditing and some professional services. 1420 is our legal services. Here we do have legal both on the administrative and on the student side. These are increases in for labor negotiations, but district council and other litigation. 1430 codes are for Mrs. McLaughlin's codes. She runs the office with herself and 1.5 clerical support. They handle human resources, leadership development, personnel, recruitment, orientation, supplies, materials. I know I'm missing some. I know advertising, but that just gives you a flavor. The changes here are really in the salary and BOCES. 1480 is community relations, and these are expenses for our public relations firm. We use Syntax, which we hire through BOCES, so we do get aided back on those services. It also includes the cost of producing the newsletters and the printing of that, and the increase there is projected for BOCES. 1670 is essential printing and mailing. This covers our lease expenses for administrative copier and postage. It also any supplies related to that. We have a small decrease here due to lower pricing that we had, and we were able to negotiate with a new copier contract, so that's reflected there. 1680, that is the administrative side of our technology department. So Mrs. Lauren McGuire, she budgets in 2 areas, both on the administrative and the classroom side, so that ends up in program, and she'll be here in 2 meetings to go over her codes. The technology department has a technology manager. They have 5 technology specialists that work there. They support the buildings and the administrative staff. They have 1 clerical that's divided between IT and student registration, and the salaries for all those staff are budgeted in the 1680 codes. Also in 1680, We have expenses for our website platform, cybersecurity, firewalls, networks, work support. In BOCES, we get a myriad of different services through there, including our student management services, frontline, state reporting. So these are really the services that we use to run the district, not as much the classroom. So those are all reflected in here. We also have supplies, materials, memberships for the IT office, and the 1680 codes or any increases you see there are really due to salaries and BOCES. In the 1900 codes is insurance and BOCES administration. Here we budget for our general liability insurance, school board liability policies, student accident. In this grouping, we also budget for the district's share of administrative facilities and capital expenses for BOCES. Nassau BOCES is made up of component districts and their expenses are divided up between them, and that is budgeted for in 1980. Insurance costs have any increases for that are reflected in those codes. You'll notice at the top of this slide, it's switched over from administrative to program. While these actually show up in the division for the program side, we do discuss them here because they're non-instructional. So we feel that it's just simpler because it's not part of the classroom, but we do like to go over that here. In 5500, these are codes for all the transportation expenses. Dr. Sinha showed a slide earlier that went over that we have a director, assistant director, dispatcher, 54 drivers, and everybody else that makes up that team. We are budgeting 2.0 clerical. They currently have a 1.5, but in order to properly support that office, we are advocating for an additional 1.5 clerical, making it 2 full-time clerical support in there. The 5510 codes relate to all of the transportation staff, salaries, bus equipment, insurance, repairs, all of that. It also covers the routing software, cameras, the GPS leasing, and all of those. In 5530, you have the maintenance of the bus garage. So there is where you'd see the heat, water, electric, and the remaining codes are for contract transportation and BOCES, which handles any students that we transport that we don't do ourselves, but we contract out for. Those transportation contracts are either rebid or they're rolled over at CPI. We are actively trying to do that, but we do find that some of the lower contracts, because of the increasing expenses, some of the contractors are throwing back at us and we'd have to rebid them. 8060 is for civic activities. This is for really a part-time clerical person who works in the facilities office, issuing permits and assisting the facilities office. So this person arranges for any use of our facilities or fields by outside groups, and the code is a small increase in salary. 8070 is the demographic study. This is something that Ms. McLaughlin handles. We do a demographic report every 2 years. 24-25 was an off year, so we're updating in 25-26. And then 9901 is a transfer to the other programs on the program side of the budget. So there's 2 things that we have programs that we transfer to. One is to our special aid fund, which handles the 20% of the district's cost of summer special ed. That's both our in-district program or anyone going out. And the other is for school lunch to cover any administrative costs that aren't covered in the revenues that come in, as well as any uncollected debt has to be paid for from general fund, not from the fund itself. Now we've switched over to capital. I'm just pointing out. 1620 are part of the codes that Rob Foley budgets for and handles. This is 1620 is for facilities operations. So here, Dr. Sinha went over that. So that's where the director, grounds, secretary, and night personnel, night security, and weekend security is all out of that. We also have we have 1 head custodian in each building, 37 custodians and cleaners throughout. Just to give you an idea, our facilities operations is in production, I guess, from 5:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. regularly scheduled. Sometimes it has to go past that, but that's just our regular schedule. So also in 1620 and 2223, we introduced supervisory aides. At this time, we now have 7 supervisory aides. one FTE in each building. A couple of them are split between two people, but they cover those buildings full time. So that's been a really great addition. In 1620, he also budgets for some equipment. So here we have a floor scrubber and a burnisher, some vacuums. It also covers all our utilities, buildings, cleaning supplies, training, all of that. Are covered in the 1620 codes. There's really quite a few of them. Increases in salaries and supplies account for the increase in those codes. 1621 is for facilities maintenance, so that handles all the maintainers and the groundskeepers. We have contractual repairs, flooring, plumbing, glass replacement, anything you could imagine comes out of there. Equipment next year there is a Toro groomer and a ride-on lawnmower that we're adding. Capital projects, you can see here, this is the 2.3 million. You'll see in 23, 24, those go up because we would have used our capital reserve this year. We do have $100,000 increase in this, which is that is coming from the current year's appropriation. We had about $100,000 come in E-rate revenue this year. So we're taking that money, increasing our appropriated fund balance and moving that to do part of the technology project for next year. Our tech director is really very good at this. She looks to see what kind of funding we can get for her projects. Robert does the same thing. Trust me, when that $6,400 check comes in, he's like, we have to increase the budget. I got this extra money and we put it back into facilities. It's the same thing with technology. And that's how we fund a part of our infrastructure. So we're very pleased with that. And that's the increase there. The 9,700 codes is for debt service. That's basically flat. I will tell you in 25, 26, we do have some debt service falling off. So we will see a change in there. The 9,000 code, this is really showing a recap of our employee benefits. This is the last section we're going to review tonight. So I am done after this, I promise. We pay for things like the New York State retirement system, FICA, workers' comp, health insurance, and all that. You can see that we're projecting this code rather flat. Health insurance in the current school year was lower than projected. Those savings is what is making that budget be relatively flat for next year. So we will have some savings this year that we had to increase the account less for next year to cover some of the projected increases. We are projecting about 10% in health insurance for next year for the last 6 months. That benefits are done on a calendar year, not a fiscal year. So we're never aware of that until the year changes. But for 2025, it was less than we had originally anticipated. The other thing is that TRS, which is our larger of the two retirement systems, are projecting rates at about 0.5% lower next year than they were this year. So those savings are projected here, and it was able to offset some of the other increases. And at that, I will hand it back over to Dr. Sinha.
Thank you, Mr. Capua. This again, you've seen before, on the ballot on May 20th, we have two propositions. One is the budget and the election of two Board of Education trustees. And then our next meeting, which is on March 25th, our principals will, along with Dr. Bowman, we will go over the instructional component part 1 of the budget, which is all of our programs in K-12 programming. And then on April 8th, we'll have athletics, technology, and pupil personnel services. We'll present those portions of the budget on April 8th, followed by the adoption of our budget on the 23rd of April, budget hearing on the 13th, with the vote and election on the 20th. You have any questions? Oh, yeah, we have one. Yeah, this is Dana. She is both.
Last time it was Tina.
Yeah, there. Yeah. Yeah. We have Kristen's picture there with her little guy.
Hanging around long enough, they put you on the screen.
So it's cute. That's from Parent University. Not parent,
It was from
the
the. math
family
and
night.
literacy.
Yeah, the literacy and math night, yeah. There were a lot of cups on the table. I don't know what was going on, but every time I saw. Oh, yeah. They were doing, they were doing, it was a math activity.
No. Family friendly. Are there any questions from the board on the budget?
One quick question about I'm really happy to see that so many of the spaces are getting air conditioned. I had a quick question about the air conditioning at the primary schools. So that's because of the windows, the way that the windows are, that the units have to be those.
Yes,
Yeah.
so, and that was one of the reasons, so the district-wide HVAC project that we're approving tonight, that covers all the classrooms in the 3 primary schools, so we'll be removing all of they're portable, right? Yeah, so they're, the portable air conditioners, plus we're air conditioning the cafeteria at the middle school, Stewart and Stratford. And we're just finishing up the multipurpose rooms in the primaries, so those were done this winter.
So the picture, so these are the portables that are
That's
going to
the
be.
Portable.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just wanted to show you what that looked like, because that
Yeah.
was a big discussion that we had last
Yeah.
year. And around, right around, a little bit before this, so we did outfit that, so those will be available once we get this project done
And
for.
the
other
picture that we
spaces.
showed of the multipurpose room has, what are they called? The split units?
Split unit,
Uh,
the
the-
ductless, yeah.
Right. The
Yeah.
ones that are going into the classrooms will have it'll be in the ceiling tile, so you'll just have the vent in there. So you won't have those splits in every one. And it'll be tied into the BMS system, so the controls would go that way.
Each classroom's gonna have a cassette unit, so you really won't see anything, but just blend in with the ceiling
Mhm.
and the thermostat control.
Nice.
But it's a ductless or?
What's that?
Is
It's
it-
ductless, yeah, the cassette units have the supply in there, supply and return built in, yes.
Are they heat as well? Perfect.
Yes. Yeah, so we have the stop, the failure if there's a problem, right?
And the idea is to do all of the interior spaces, all of them. So offices and so on.
All the student spaces, are covered and some of the offices already are covered. with air
Right.
conditioning, Yeah.
Whatever needed to get done.
Are there any other questions? Maybe now it's time for questions from the community on the budget. Just come right up. If you name and address, good to see you again.
Harper's 111 Cherry Valley Avenue. I have a couple questions on various topics. At the last meeting, I think it was trustee Gaffney that brought up the issue about the electric buses. Is that correct?
Mm.
I know someone brought it up.
Yes, it was when you give your legislative update.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So let's bring
Someone
it
was
up there.
listening, yes.
Yes, well, I do pay attention. I'm curious to know how we're going to approach this issue because what do we have? About 35 buses? Is that about right?
No more
No,
than
we have
that.
about 60 buses.
60 buses? Okay, but there'd be a mixture of large buses and smaller buses because
Correct.
each electric bus may cost $400,000, which is
Correct.
more than 2 times what the current bus costs.
I think I know where you're going with this, and it is going to be very expensive, obviously, to go over to follow the mandate of what the state wants us to do. And so part of the legislative update and part of what we're working with our representatives is to tell them that it's 2027 is too early and it's not, it's going to be a challenge for us to do that. We recognize the challenge. We're not alone. Every district is with us in the same boat. And so we will hopefully be hearing from
Yeah.
our legislative.
Yeah, we've been lobbying for years. I think we don't have the infrastructure, you need charging stations, the buses don't run long enough to do multiple
Right, well,
routes.
What we did put in the budget for this year is to get a study done, what it entails for us. So once we get that, we will be sharing that with the board and the community.
So
Right,
I was gonna say that,
Yeah.
we're in the middle, we're in the midst of that survey. Or we have a consultant and a project through NYSERDA that just got approved, and we're going to be doing the study to look at what our space and our capacity and what the charging plan and all of that would look like. So that background work is being done now. It'll be done hopefully this school year. If not, it'll go shortly into the next, and we'll take it from there. But that's part of the work in order to do anything, including applying for grants or any monies on this, you have to have a study done.
right, because this would be a considerable capital expenditure. and
Considerable,
Depending
correct.
if it's all required in 1 year or if it's phased in, I'm sure all this stuff will be in.
There was no intention to ever do it in 1 year. It was
Right.
supposed to be put
Phased
in over time, and people are really pushing for that to be
Okay.
extended. And so that's what we're looking at.
The other concern we have too is the actual structure of the building being able to handle the
Accommodate
charge-
things,
Yeah,
right?
so this
And
is
you might
not,
need
Where do you charge
upgrades
from
to
the
the
store?
electrical system.
Yeah.
Well, we,
and other
not
stuff.
May.
We will.
or that, or it's like,
We've been talking about it for years.
yeah.
To be honest with
Right, well, it's just another one of our state's ridiculous policies because the economics of this make no sense. And I don't know why they're not using compressed natural gas instead, which would make a lot more sense, but anyway. The other question I had, and I know Dana, you touched on it, was the contractual transportation services. And that category has grown tremendously over the last 5 years. It's grown at 18% a year, which is a lot more than CPI over that time period. What actually is this for? This is where we hire an outside bus company
Yes,
to supplement the 54 drivers, is that correct?
that's correct.
And we haven't, like, the number of buses that we use, that probably has not really changed that much. This is just mostly price.
It really has to do with most of the out of district, or not most. Some of the out of district are single students going to a single location. A lot of that is contracted out.
Right,
Because
I
it would
understand,
it would
but-
take a full driver, and
Right, but just the escalation in this is.
correct.
Is very high.
As I was saying, a
Right.
lot of the transportation, these older transportation contracts.
Right, yes,
Um,
okay.
Yeah, plus CPI has gone up, plus it depends, sometimes we get a year that we have a few more schools that are added in, and sometimes we don't, but.
And the transportation costs, that has been a topic of conversation at the county level, but also at the state level, because everybody's experiencing this, the increase in the cost of transportation. And I also wanted to point out that our transportation department, they really work with other districts. So when we have students that are going to out of district places, that they coordinate with other districts
Well,
to
we do
save
tr- we-
costs.
We do try to, in turn, like, we have a contract right now, one with Mineola to take a student, one with us
Right.
to take one of theirs, so.
Save costs.
Right, I know you explained that to me
Yeah.
last year when I raised something similar. And then can you explain this HVAC that's in today's meeting? There are two parts for the contract.
There's mechanical and there's
Is this
electrical.
For the elementary school and all that?
That's
or is
for the
that some-
district wide that I was saying earlier. So yes, it's for the air conditioners in the classrooms in the 3 primary buildings, plus the air conditioning for the cafeterias of Stewart, Stratford, and the middle school.
Okay, and then can you just elaborate a bit more on the health insurance? I know it's coming in under budget this year for the year that's ending in June, right?
Right.
Because it was projected to be up 13%, but it will be coming in under that. But then for the new year, it's projected to be down 2%,
Yes,
right? And that's based on what your estimate for,
that's correct.
right? Okay, so they're really, but that's contingent on you negotiating the new contract that will start 1/1/26, right?
That's
Because it's on
based off of
calendar basis.
our contract with with our health insurance.
Right.
Yes. Mhm.
So that will be to be determined, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then I had one last question. Can you talk about judgment and claims, which is on page 10? And it was $450,000 last year. And then in the new year, it's expected to drop to $1,500.
We had a specific judgment that we settled.
Okay, so this is just,
That's a one-off.
Right.
It's not something that would reoccur year after year. That's correct.
okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Yvonne Chapman, 70 Willow. When we were looking at this at first, I was looking at the legal fees and you're like 15%. But I think you guys are just trying to predict it better. So I just wanted to ask a question. In 23-24, we predicted about 270,000, we got to 372. This year we predicted 272. So either we, predicted a little bit less. Do we know how much we've kind of spent towards it that you guys want to move it up a little bit? Do we know?
Review our actuals and run rates, plus we have increases in retainer
Yeah.
and hourly that we take into consideration. And we, like I said, we budget between two different
Just to
codes,
the
both
trends, so
administrative
you
and
wanna-
the other and in program. So it's sometimes we will move between those.
Because I mean, it's a huge $100,000, just prediction wise. So I do
Sure.
understand why that went up, but
Of course.
it just brings the question of, I mean, these are just retainer fees for everything legal, that we have to do. This doesn't include any lawsuits or anything like that.
It does.
Are we,
Includes everything.
All of
what
it's-
do we have discretionary funds? Do we have insurance? Like, how does that
No,
work?
that's covered in those same codes.
So everything is under
Everything.
that and that's the prediction.
That's,
Okay,
okay,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Damasio. I live at 138 Garden Street. It's not a budget question, but it's a general comment. Can I share now?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, so I just actually wanted to thank the school district for all that you have done for my family over the years. I started really, our career here started in 2008. I have a daughter who had special needs, and I want to say that she's a fully functioning adult. She was actually placed in an out-of-district placement. So I understand some of what you're sharing, but that, is a happy story. I have a middle daughter who is currently at a private school, St. Joe's, and I want to thank you for sending those buses on time and sending them over to us. I know it's not easy, so I just wanted to say thank you for that as well. And rounding out my roster, I have a third grader. And she's really what prompted me to come here. I just want to share with you the amazing experience we have had this year at Stewart School in third grade. I just wrote down some of the things that she comes home and tells me, and I just want to share it with you so that you know that there is an amazing program in third grade. So she is in Mrs. Moscato's class, and she has really had the best year so far. I want to let you know that she comes home and she asks me if I know that in books there is a challenger, an advisor, and a sidekick. And then she proceeds to talk about all of those pieces. She also just has this love of mystery books. And she told me that, did I know there was a red herring and that there are specific clues? And I mean, just adorable. And then, the math program, I know that you've heard like a lot of kickback about the math program, but I mean, she is 8 years old and she's using the distributed property to multiply 2-digit by 1-digit numbers. And a lot of it she can do, in her head. And I don't think she's a special case. I think that's a lot of our kids. Honestly, there was a time, that I've been here a long time. So sometimes I've been happy, sometimes I have not. But I have seen an amazing change in the last 5 years in the curriculum and the rigor. And I'm also a teacher in a neighboring school district that is well respected. So I know what third graders are expected to do. And I just wanted to tell you that, statistics can be manipulated. But my third grader has had an exceptional experience here. And I just wanted to thank you and let you know how positive we feel about it. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you for the kind words. Everybody up here appreciates them, especially the people to my right. So thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. There's no further business. May I have a motion that there's no further business to come before the board and the work session be adjourned and the special session be opened?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. At this time, the special session is now open and all members of the board are in attendance. May I have a motion to accept the agenda for March 11, 2025 special session as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Are there any questions from the board on the agenda?
None.
None. To make more efficient use of the meeting time, the Board of Education authorizes the use of a consent agenda as part of the meeting agenda. As board members know, if they want to have a motion or an item stripped out and voted on separately, they can ask to do so. At this time, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes personnel matters E1 through E5 and business office matters F1 through F2?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. At this time, we have one other resolution. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendents of schools, the Board of Education hereby rejects the resignation of the employee listed in confidential Schedule A and terminates the employment of the employee listed in the confidential Schedule A effective March 11th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Is there any new business from the administration? From the board? No new business. Future Board of Education meetings, Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Actually. March, sorry, there's March, so Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. That is a work session.
Work session, special part 1.
Instructional part 1, 8:15 here at the high school, and then the following meeting.
I just want to
It's a
make,
regular
it's a
meeting.
regular meeting, but remember all of our meetings right now, till we get the budget done, we'll have a budget component to it.
Okay.
But that's a regular meeting. We will have students. We're going to do some recognition at that meeting along with the regular agenda.
I think we have one comment from.
I'm sorry, one
Trustee
very,
Connectney.
very brief comment. I just want to thank the high school, obviously, Principal Stein Grubner for all of the work that went into the recent skit night, senior skit night. It was very, very enjoyable.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And then, sorry, one other Board of Education announcement. The one following the March 25th board meeting will be Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 here at 8:15 PM at the Garden City High School. If there's no further business before the board, may I have a motion that the meeting be adjourned?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.